Well, supermarket chain Coles says inflationary pressures forced it to lift prices by more than 4% in the June quarter. We all felt that. Joining me now is business reporter Edward Boyd. Ed, Coles says it has lifted prices for bread, fresh produce and packaged foods. I mean, what's left?
Well, there isn't much left, Laura. That's the thing. So obviously bread prices were up because the price of wheat has increased significantly this year. Fresh produce is up because of the floods on the east coast of Australia. And then packaged foods are up because of petrol prices. You can see this is inflation. Full year inflation, it was up 1.7% at Coles. In the second half of the year, it clearly accelerated up 3.8%. And then the fourth quarter, which is the 3 months to the end of June, it really took off. This is Coles' profit results. They're out today. Revenue, almost $4 billion. Earnings before interest and tax went down very slightly. That's the figure that analysts look at. Profit, about $1 billion Australian dollars, up 4%. And the dividend was increased as well. But Coles do call out in their outlook statement that inflationary pressures are still here and they're actually getting worse. In the month of July, they say there was still a lot of problems with flooding, with fruit and vegetables, so costs for those are still rising. Cost of bread is still going up. And they actually talk about the fuel excise coming off in September as well and how that's going to push up the cost of packaged goods and transport too. So a lot of additional inflationary pressures at Coles, Laura.
Yeah, and it felt like a lot more than 4%. Actually, but I guess that's an average. And if it was 4% as Coles says it is, it's still below headline inflation. So that's pretty good, isn't it?
Well, look, that is a good thing if the prices have just gone up 1.7% over the course of a 12-month period, but they are up 4.3% over just the last 3 months of that financial year. Obviously, headline inflation looks at the prices across a whole basket of goods and does take into account other things like petrol prices, for example.
Yeah.
So there's some differences between what Coles says inflation is and what the actual overall number is. But it is, they actually do call out deflation as well. They say some things did go down in price, particularly grapes and bananas during the financial year. So there are some fruits that are getting cheaper and that's going to add to deflationary pressures on the economy, which is what I think a lot of Australians want to see.
Yeah, avocado too. Smashed avocado. Have that for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Go for it right now. Anyway, let's check in on the markets. The US market's closed lower overnight. The local market has just opened. How's it looking?
Local market's up about 0.4% in early trade. So positive start to the ASX today. It was down 1.2% yesterday, so it was a tough day for the markets yesterday, but it started to bounce back this morning. US markets seem to be in a bit of a holding pattern ahead of the US Federal Reserve Chairman speaking at this Jackson Hole conference in Wyoming. And yesterday I said it was Australia time, 10 a.m. on Friday. It's actually 10 a.m. Wyoming time, so he won't be speaking till 2 o'clock in the morning in Australia on Saturday, so I'm not going to be able to watch it.
You're not staying up for that one, Ed?
I won't stay up for that one, but we'll see the impact on Australia's share market from that speech on Monday morning. But we are still in profit reporting season. We're talking to a lot of chief executives and they're all talking about how there's skills shortages across the country and problems. It all ties in with this federal jobs summit next week. And there's a lot of executives going to the summit, but we saw yesterday that the big bank bosses won't be invited along. They're going to be represented by Anna Bligh. And she was on your program a little earlier, Laura, talking about the summit and the bank bosses being snubbed. Just take a listen to this grab from Anna.
Anybody who's ever done an invitation list for a big family event or a wedding knows that 100 spots is not very many, and you've got to make some big calls. Look, this was an invitation list done by the government. I think they've got a very good cross-section of the Australian community. I also, as I said, think it's really important to remember this is the beginning, not the end of this process.
So obviously skills shortages are still a really big problem, and we spoke to a chief executive yesterday that suggested governments should be paying migrants to come to Australia to work in these jobs. So that's going to be something else I think that's going to pop up next week at the summit, Laura.
Yeah, I wonder if that'll get across the line. Don't think so, but we'll see
Probably
how we go. Ed, thank you.